Welcome to Women Like You. Whether you are in a marriage or in a relationship with the goal of marriage, this program is for you. Today's guest helps us understand how to communicate with our significant other in ways to achieve satisfying and meaningful relationships. So don't go away.
Before we say that I do, we know it's really serious. Studies have shown the most successful relationships are the ones that are the most assertive with one another. Say, you know what, I'm going to try to communicate as much as I can to help him understand me.
Welcome back. For some couples, communication ends after the words "I do" when we begin to relax and function in everyday situations. I don't know about you, but I know that's been true for me. I've only been married for 10 years. I know you've been married forever.
35 years, I'm admitting nothing. I'm admitting nothing.
Well, today's guest, Sylvia Ching, licensed marriage and family therapist with Bay Area Christian Counseling, offers us help in refining the tools of communication in marriage to grow stronger together through the years. She also offers tools in identifying compatibility when searching for that certain someone. We're so glad you're here.
No,
We
my
are.
pleasure. Thank
You know,
you.
Darnisha, it's true. Should we use our husbands as examples
I know-
today and
I
just
know,
like
my husband
have
would love
watch
that.
the program? We could kind of keep them away from it, you know, somehow. What do you think?
I think that's a good idea.
Sounds good.
Sylvia, I think what we know is like maybe communication is the key.
It sure is. Communication is the key. It's amazing. I would say 95 to 99% of the couples that call to come in for counseling are looking for communication tools. And studies have shown the most successful relationships are the ones that are the most assertive with one another.
People are from different sides, you know, of
Yes.
communication
Oh,
skills. Now,
absolutely.
let's identify though. You're right. I've been married 35 years, actually this month.
That is so
it's
awesome.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
That
Thank you
is
so
a
much.
long
Fabulous.
time.
And 2 girls, 22 and 24. And you know, we are going strong, and it's not that we haven't had our moments when stress and other things affect us, but you know, we're still going strong. 10 for you.
10 years this year. Praise the Lord.
Congratulations. That's awesome.
And I got married older in life. So I was 34 when I got married. And so we didn't like grow up with each other like a lot of people that get married really young.
Yes,
So we had a whole nother set of learning to recommunicate. And the truth is, confession, we still are learning.
Yes, we all are.
I really am still learning.
Yes,
And in
we
most
all
cases, we've learned to communicate. There, you know, but we can always improve.
Absolutely. And all of us have learned how to communicate, coming from different families of origin. However, our parents communicated, we learn how to communicate. But unfortunately, it's not the proper way of communicating. And so, but it's never too late. You know, when people come to us, there are 6 steps that for communication that you know, we share with them those tools, and
Where's
they
that
can-
pen?
Yeah.
and you learn how to properly communicate where you're whatever you're saying is not offending the other person.
So important.
Yes, very important. So I'd love to tell you what those 6 steps
Please.
are really
I
quickly.
want to know.
I know,
Don't hold
I
out on
know,
us,
I
please.
know.
So the first step is to be assertive, which is using I statements. So you can be assertive by using I statements, which you're able to tell your spouse how you feel and what you want in a very safe manner. And so you have to use I statements because you're taking responsibility for your feelings. So you'll say, I feel blank when you say or do blank.
Okay.
But we were taught, you make me angry,
Right.
you
Yes,
drive me
yes,
crazy, it's
yes,
you.
yes.
And so when you're starting your sentence with you, the walls come up, guns come out, and they're ready to shoot you because like, I don't make you feel the way you feel.
Right.
So when you're taking responsibility for your feelings, then they're all ears. They want to hear, well, what is it? What is it that's bothering you or making you happy? They want to know.
Excellent.
So that's step number one.
Okay.
Okay. So
And
let's
that's-
practice one though.
Okay.
I feel angry when you become silent when I need you, something like that, when I need you. Is that kind of it?
I feel, yes, angry when you,
Right.
and you tell whatever it is. If
Or
I feel scared,
loved.
I feel loved.
when you tell me how much you appreciate.
So it's not just the
Yes.
negative
Right.
things,
It
but
could
the
be
positive
No,
things.
positive things too. Yes,
good.
I feel scared when you yell at me.
It seems as though when someone comes and says it that way to me,
Yeah.
I'm more open. Like what you said,
Yes.
we're all
Yeah.
ears
Yes.
versus feeling attacked.
Yes, because we feel all those feelings.
Right.
And if we don't know how to put it in words, a lot of people will tell me, well, I don't like confrontation.
Right.
Well, no one likes confrontation. But being assertive does not mean you're confrontational. You're just sharing in a safe manner how those things make you feel.
Okay.
And so by using I statement, you're starting with, I'm taking responsibility for how I'm feeling, but this is what you're doing, or this is what you're saying. So it's not you, it's what's happening.
Right.
And
Okay, that's
so
one. Okay,
yeah,
we've only got
that's
to one.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's
Okay.
true. This
So
is-
we got to get to
All right,
where's
Yes,
two? Okay.
Two is active listening.
Okay.
Active listening is the other person. So as the person A shared how they feel, they're sharing their heart. Person B is supposed to actually, like the drive-through, where when you order in McDonald's, they will repeat to you what you ordered.
Right.
Big Mac and
point.
fries
Yes,
and large,
yes.
so they don't make a mistake. So we need to repeat what we heard, and the reason for that is a lot of us, we react to what we think we
Right.
heard. Like if you're married for 10 years and 35 years,
Yes.
you think that you know your husband so well that, oh, I know from his tone what he meant.
Oh, that's
and you
good.
start reading between the lines. And so when you do that, you end up reacting, and we don't want to react. We
So
want
then-
to respond.
So then when we are the one that are expressing the I statement,
Yes.
the active listening part, if we don't know that our partner has heard us right, do we ask them if what they heard us say?
Yes.
Is that what we do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Because
if
they
they
may not
react,
know.
say, you know what? What did you just hear me say?
Okay.
Please repeat what I said. And so active listening is either you paraphrase what you think you heard, or you actually repeat what they said word for word, but you clarify everything. And then until you get it all right, or
Right.
sometimes you hear only part of it, but not all of it. So the third step is validating the other person's feelings. So they already shared with you, I feel scared when you yell at me. And if you tell them, well, you shouldn't be scared, well, that will throw the other person off the cliff. It's like,
course.
okay, I'm feeling this feeling.
Right.
And so validate.
Right.
Say, I understand how that makes
Yes.
you. If you don't understand, say, I see how that scared you.
Yes.
Right.
So understanding and validating that feeling is really, it's halfway through the battle.
I understand the need for us to go to the break, but I really don't want to do it. More with Sylvia Ching when we return.
Something happens, really healing happens, and you let go of it. And the next time when you have disagreement, it does not come back. You don't remember things from 20 years ago and throw it in each other's face. And you end up truly forgiving the way God taught us to forgive.
We're back with Sylvia Ching, licensed marriage and family therapist, and you were on point number 4.
Number
Yes. So point number 4. So once we've been assertive, active listening, and we validated, now number 4 is if there's any apology in order, you apologize. That's simple.
tough.
Yes.
No, that's
Yeah.
tough.
That's
Yes.
a good
So
one.
that requires some humbling. So, but that's an easy one. And sometimes not all, of course, issues that we discuss will take us all the way through all 6 steps. But then number 5 is when you ask for forgiveness. And so even secular therapy believe in forgiveness. They
Wow.
know some healing happens there. So forgiveness, what the Lord showed me is not just ask, will you forgive me? But the Lord showed me that we need to actually say, will you forgive me for, fill in the blank. Will you forgive me for yelling at you?
Wow.
So you're actually confessing your sin. So when you
Right.
hear yourself confessing that sin, you're repenting too. So it's like between you and your spouse and the Lord. And then step number 6, it's the other person actually forgiving. So you don't just nod your head and you don't just say, yes, I forgive you. Again, the Lord showed me that you need to say, I forgive you for yelling at me. When you hear yourself saying those words, it actually comes out. When it comes out, it's gone. You're done with it. And the next time when you have disagreement, it does not come back. You don't remember things from 20 years ago and throw it in each other's face. And you end up truly forgiving the way God taught us to forgive. He says, I forgive and I don't remember it. Well, God remembers everything, but He chooses not to remember it.
Yes.
And throw it in our face again, right? And say, well, you did this before.
Buried in the
and
deepest
so,
sea.
absolutely. So it's really, really important that we follow God's example and forgive and be done with it. And something happens, really healing happens, and you let go of it. And so you don't end up building and keeping an account and remembering things.
Wow.
You're released, you're freed. So, and it's not for the other person. It's really for us, because unforgiveness is poison that will just eat us up. It builds resentment, it builds anger, it leads to hate, and the Bible says hate leads to murder. And so we don't want that. It frees us.
You know, I will say that there have been instances where it's a little harder for me to forget.
Yes. I always tell couples too, it's like 3 different situations for forgiveness. Some are really easy, you know, slamming the door or something, and so you say, yeah, I forgive you for slamming the door. But there are situations where, you know, it's at the tip of your tongue, you want to say it, but something is holding you back, and you don't know if that other person is sincere or not. Just say, you know, I want to forgive you, will you say more? And have the other person say more. Write a book. So you know what, it was not my intention. I would never want to hurt you. And just that softens the heart, and then you're able. And then there's the third. The third, where it was something really big. And you say, you know what, I want to forgive you, thank you for asking for that, but I need some time to pray about it. And if it takes that, do that. Go and really truly pray about it.
Because you want it to be an honest forgiveness.
Yes, and from your heart, absolutely. But pray about it and come back. Don't let the other person wonder. I've had people say, well, you know, I wanted to come back, but everything was going so well. People were laughing, and I didn't want to rock the boat again. But you know what? If you don't rock the boat, then just come and say, you know, about that forgiveness, I forgive you. I forgive you for yelling at me, or I forgive you for lying to me. It's sort of like that stain in the rug that you just kind of clean the surface, and if you don't clean the root of it, in a couple of months it shows up again. So if you don't come back and say, I do forgive you, it will come back up. It will. So you want to be done with it.
What wonderful things to learn. I wish I had known this when I was single. When I wish I'd learned it when I was single, so that I could take it into my married life. But there are things I think that you can learn beforehand.
Yes, I agree.
In order to apply to your marriage. But even like in the when you're dating, I mean, how do you spot these things? What do you look for? What do you practice as a single person in order to pick the right mate?
I believe if we know these tools in advance, you definitely, the dating couples, if they're serious, they need to master this before marriage. Because once you get married and there comes a honeymoon, comes a baby and another baby, and then all of a sudden empty nest, and you wonder why you don't know this person anymore, and you drift apart, and you hear about so many divorces after the emptiness. So couples need to master this beforehand, and I would encourage couples before even engagement to go do counseling, pre-engagement counseling, not premarital, pre-engagement counseling. It really helps. And if couples, there is a tool actually that's been used by churches, pastors, and therapists. It's called Prepare Enrich. So they could call around and ask for this tool. If they offer it, take that. It's like 160 questions. It covers every area of a couple's relationship, from family of origin, and shows strengths and growth area. So it's really important for couples before they say that I do.
Awesome.
To do that.
I believe these principles we can use in other relationships,
Absolutely.
either mother-daughter or family, or my kids. You know, you can be hurt by a child without them realizing it, so the tools can be used in that way. But in terms of relationship, let's talk about someone whose gift is, for instance, affirmation, and then it's opposite for the other person. And let's say they're married.
Okay.
All right. What do you suggest?
Well, that's the amazing thing. I love that book by Gary Chapman. It's a great tool that I use. God bless him. The 5 love languages. We need to be intentional every day. So if we speak the same love language, it's easy, of course, because that's how you feel love, so you give it. But if it's different, if it's total opposite, and that happens, you definitely need to be intentional to learn that language.
Yes.
Unfortunately, so many people think that believe in what society's teaching us from the movies and the media, that you fall in love and you fall out of love. And I don't believe that.
We want to talk more about that. Okay, so don't go away. Okay.
It's really important that before we say that I do, we know it's really serious. Say, you know what? This is my husband, and I'm going to love him, and I'm going to try to communicate as much as I can to help him understand me.
Welcome back, everyone. Information on how to contact Sylvia through Bay Area Christian Counseling will be provided at the conclusion of this program. Okay, Sylvia, you were talking about how society tells us that we can fall in and out of love.
Yeah.
Can you finish that thought?
It's really frustrating that we see people using those words, saying, you know, I fell in love, now I'm not in love with you, now I don't know what happened, I fell in love with this other woman. Unfortunately, if we look at the scripture, you know, Jesus commanded us to love one another. So it's not something we fall in and fall out, it's something that's intentional. It's something that we need to do intentionally, love one another. So when we say I do, we don't fall out of love.
Choice, huh?
It's a choice. Just like forgiveness is a choice, same with love. It's a choice. We wake up every day, we choose to love our spouse.
I'm curious because I think a lot of couples, at least myself, I felt oftentimes like I'm the only one that's going through this, or we're the only ones that face this. But what are common areas that all couples seem to come into conflict over?
I would say some of the most common areas I've seen, finances, sex, and parenting. Those will be like the top 3. But you know what? I look at them as they're the symptoms. They're some things that people are struggling with, but the root, if they know how to communicate,
Good point,
they can resolve those things. They can actually share how they feel about something, and then they can hear each other and brainstorm and resolve.
So we basically using the same principles no matter what the conflict?
Yes.
Brilliant.
We can do that.
I feel like I can.
I'm happy to say, well, it takes a long time to go through those things, but
like
you know
it.
what?
Yeah.
If you do it your way, it takes you, what, 2 weeks,
Oh,
a
true.
month not talking to each other,
True.
and
Yes.
never resolving
Yes.
that issue.
Yes.
And the only place that I see that being a real struggle
Yes.
is when you've almost gotten to the end. Like there's been so many disagreements that you've never processed until you're almost at the place of divorce, or you're at a place where this relationship can no longer go on.
Yeah.
What advice can you give?
Yeah.
How do we work through that?
I believe if we truly, when we say I do, we believe that that's a covenant with the Lord, that that's not just a contract between the two, and if it doesn't work out, we just get out, we throw in the towel. Because there's only one ground for divorce, God says, you know, and that's adultery. So anything else can be worked out. And so prayer is so powerful. And go to counseling, learn these communication tools, give that a chance, and be intentional. Be intentional in that loving your spouse, the one that you said I do. There was something when you said I do. And that's why I tell singles, if before you say I do, to know that this is the one.
This is it.
You know,
Yes.
can
What
you
you
imagine
see.
this one in a wheelchair for life? Will you still love him?
Right.
Can you imagine him burned? Will you still love him? Can you imagine him blind for the rest of his life? Will you still love him? Or are you going to say life is difficult? I'm sorry, I need somebody else. So
good
it's
point.
really important that before we say that I do, we know it's really serious. There's only one way out of that. But of course, I want to make sure I mention, if there is domestic violence, then the Bible doesn't say you're not to separate. You separate until things change, until that person gets healing. So
How
it's
do you
important.
regain trust in instances like that, where you're trying to rebuild something that has been broken? And I can see this, and we're talking a lot about marriage, but I can definitely see this as well in friendships and work relationships,
Yes,
things that
any
have been
relationship.
damaged because trust has been taken
Yes.
or infringed upon. How do we allow the Holy Spirit to help us work through those things?
That's the thing. Are we willing to allow it, or are we going with the flesh? And that's the most people that would divorce because their flesh is so strong and they want to satisfy that flesh. Or do we want to say, you know, Lord, I want to please you.
Wow.
This life is temporary. I want to please you. I'm working on my heavenly treasures. That's eternity. And so that's really important.
So it
and I'm
sounds
going to
like-
pick up my cross. If that's
Yes.
my cross for this
Wow.
season, I'm going to pick up my cross for this season.
So it
For
sounds
you.
like so much humility has to be involved in that.
Has to be.
We
yes,
have to be
and to die to
so
our flesh daily.
humble.
To say, you know what, this is my husband, and I'm going to love him, and I'm going to try to communicate as much as I can to help him understand me.
I think that's why it's so important to make sure in the beginning, before you're married, pray, earnestly pray, and make sure it is the right one, for you. If God doesn't change someone, if they're not open to that, people do not change.
Yes.
What you see is what you get,
Right.
unless God intervenes.
Yes, and they're willing to change.
Yes.
If they're willing,
Yes.
they humble themselves, the change can happen because he's God of miracles.
And he made two people, both people in his image. They may just have different, fruits of how they communicate and different ideals and different ways they do things. He made them both. Doesn't mean one is less valuable than the other. They're just different.
They're different.
All
Right,
we
they're
have
equally yoked.
Less than, equally, yes. Less than 60 seconds. And we can get a hold of you through your counseling center, which is so cool.
Awesome.
Yes, definitely, because the Lord is just does miracles in these counseling sessions. He restores marriages, and he's just amazing.
Yes,
so encouraging.
Absolutely.
Well, we appreciate you being with us
Thank
here
you
today.
so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Don't
Pleasure.
forget, it takes two people to make a marriage or relationship work centered on Christ and in His will for your lives. To find out more about today's guest and Bay Area Christian Counseling, go to baccounseling.com or ktln.tv. Remember that KTLN is a donor-supported ministry. Programs like this one are made possible through your support. Join us again next week.